Bueno, bienvenidos y bienvenidas a las personas que se están conectando en estos momentos. Estamos coordinando unas cositas del Facebook Live, entonces ya en breve empezamos.
Welcome to everyone. We're just trying to set up the Facebook Live and set up some technical stuff. But in the meantime, welcome and join us.
Listo. Muy buenas tardes. Sean todos y todas bienvenidas. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos en el día de hoy en este seminario virtual de los equipos cristianos de acción por la paz de ECAP Colombia, donde hablaremos sobre la difícil situación y la difícil construcción de paz en nuestro país.
So good afternoon and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us in this webinar hosted by Christian Peacemaker Teams Colombia. And we're here today to talk about the difficult task of building peace in our country.
Queremos recordarles que contamos con interpretación al inglés, así que mi compañero Pierre les dará unas recomendaciones para poder acceder a esta función y así poder seguir con el seminario virtual en español.
And so, we are providing, the webinar is in Spanish. Our guest speakers are going to be speaking in Spanish. And so we are providing simultaneous English translation on the Zoom platform. So if you're joining us through Facebook Live, please go to the registration page and sign up that way to be logged into the Zoom platform. And at the bottom of the page, you will see the symbol that says interpretation. There you can select English, and you can either choose to mute or leave on the original audio, where you will be able to listen then to the interpretation. So I am going to now leave it to Natalia, where she is going to moderate this time, and I'm going to go to the other room where I will do the interpretation. So thank you. Entonces, ahí estuve describiendo cómo conectarse a través de la traducción, y en este momento voy a dejarles en las manos de Natalia, que va a facilitar este espacio, y voy a ir al otro cuarto donde voy a hacer la traducción. Muchas gracias. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos.
Gracias, Pierre. Entonces, mientras Pierre se prepara, le vamos a dar un minutico para que pueda conectarse y pueda ayudarnos con esta traducción para las personas que están escuchando y que quieren escucharlo en
So,
inglés.
welcome to everyone. Here we are with translation. Okay. Listo. Okay. So we'd love to know who's joining us today. And so please feel free to tell us who you are, where you're from, where you're connecting from. And you can do that in the chat option that is at the bottom of the screen. Be sure to choose the option that says for everyone, to all participants and panelists. And so that's where you can share your thoughts or your questions to everyone present today, to all participants. My name is Natalia Vaca, and I'm a member of CPT Colombia, and I'm joining you today from the city of Barrancabermeja. So before we start, though, I would like to give you a few recommendations. So because we can't see you or hear you, we invite you to share your thoughts or questions in the question and answer option at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A. We're going to dedicate some time at the very end where you can, look at your questions. And if we don't get to your questions, then we'll do that through email. So please share your email with us as well. And we can respond then to you. Or if you would like to contact us afterwards, you can contact us at the email cptco@cpt.org.
cptco@cpt.org. Esto lo vamos a escribir también en el chat.
And
En breve,
the email, cptco@cpt.org, we will write it in the chat as well, so you can see. So for those of us who don't know us, Christian Peacemaker Teams, CPT, is an organization that accompanies community processes and grassroots organizations that live nonviolent resistance as a tool to defend themselves facing violence. We also work together to transform violence and oppression. If you'd like to get more information about CPT, you can visit our webpage at ecapcolombia.org, ecapcolombia.org. And now I'll give just a quick, brief history about CPT Colombia. CPT arrived to Colombia in 2001 at the invitation of the Colombian Mennonite Church to accompany different communities in the region of the Magdalena Medio, the Middle Magdalena region. Currently, we accompany community processes that are defending their territory, such as Gauzal, El Guayabo, and Las Palas, and human rights defense organizations, such as the Popular Women's Organization, the OFP, and the Corporation for Humanitarian Action and the Peaceful Coexistence of the Northeast Antioquia region, Caucopana, and the Regional Corporation for the Defense of Human Rights, CREDOS. Our call to work for peace means that we live and share with other human rights defense organizations, and that means that today we have two of our partners sharing their experiences of how they actively work through nonviolence in the current context. We'd like to present Rocio Campos, a social worker that is currently the coordinator for the National Movement Victims of State Crimes, Moviste. She's also the coordinator of the 16th of May Collective. Carlos Morales is one of the founders of the Corporation for Humanitarian Action and the Peaceful Coexistence of the Northeast Antioquia region, Caucopana, an organization that works for the defense of human rights and the permanence in the territory and a dignified life for farmers. So we're going to start with Rocio now. Rocio, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And I would like to start by asking you, how did you end up joining these movements that look to try and clarify the truth about people who have been forcefully disappeared? So good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to this space. For me, it's very important, and I'm very grateful to share my experience. Many don't know the reality that we leaders are going through. Those of us who are in the regions. I'd like to share with you that I came to this work starting in 1998. I was working in my neighborhood with the Community Action Committee. And after 1998, when the massacre of 16th of May took place, when my brother, Daniel Rocio Campos, was forcefully disappeared, I asked myself the question, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to my family? My brother was not a delinquent. He was not a guerrilla. If he had been, he was never accused of anything. The authorities never were accusing him of anything. But and we've been asking the authorities what happened to my brother. We've been asking for the truth to what happened to him and to everyone that was taken with him. Because at that time there was a lot of uncertainty about what had happened. During that time in Barranca, we had heard about the Macetos, the paramilitary group. And for us, the paramilitary groups are somewhat of an unknown. And so then I started relating to the organization. There was something called the popular coordination of Barranca Bermeja, and I started connecting with them to demand the right to life. And from there, we were getting orientations about the different activities that were going to take place here in the city. And from there, well, I started my leadership work. And it's been very difficult, very hard, but still you learn a lot. One learns to defend the rights of many different people. That for me, like the people who don't dare to speak up, but they do it through us. Because now I've given up fear. I've lost fear. And I have a commitment with victims, people who've trusted in me to try and look for justice. But beyond those two things, it's to find our loved ones who were forcefully disappeared. Thank you, Rocio. And so in that sense, what does it mean for you to have lost a brother? What's sustained you to struggle to know the truth? What sustained me is that they denied my brother a person to live out his life. They cut apart the family. They ripped out from its gut a treasure, a mother's treasure, because her son that was taken, or a brother, a loved one, it leaves an emptiness that is not filled with other loved ones. My brother was a person who was recognized in the community, in the 7th district of Barranca. He helped everyone. He was a beautiful human being. He's a person that people would go to him, ask him a favor, and he would do it. And so what motivates me is that an injustice that was committed. And on top of that, he had already been a victim of the insurgency guerrilla groups. They had an attempt on his life because he had tried to protect somebody who they were going to commit an act of aggression against. And so I'm struggling to know the truth. Why did they do that massacre? I need to know what were the interests, the political interests behind what happened, behind committing that massacre. It was a huge massacre that marked the history of Barranca. It was 7 people who were assassinated and 25 people who were forcefully disappeared from the city. And up till now, only 8 remains have been given back to the families. Wow, that's very hard to listen to these stories. And to see how much time has passed and there's been no resolve to it. And they continue to carry out these atrocious acts that are so inhumane and frustrate the heart. And so in that sense, Rocio, I would like to ask you as well. Why do you think that one of the mechanisms that armed groups use um, that use violence, because this is such an yeah, why did they use violence? In my experience of the last 22 years of leadership, that in my struggle to find people who've been forcefully disappeared, is that one is that some are community leaders, others are mothers, single mothers who are defending their territory, who are defending their life projects, goals. Others, we dare to denounce and not be quiet all the violations that are committed against us. And so forced disappearance is one of the best way to silence someone, because a forced disappearance disappears everything about them. You Yeah, you disappear everything about them. Sorry. It's terrible that, yeah, family members have to wait 32 hours before they can denounce a forced disappearance. The law 589 says that Law 589 says that when somebody is known to be disappeared, the police needs to activate a search mechanism right away, but they don't do it. The authorities don't do this. Because in many cases of forced disappearance, the public force, the public authorities, the police or the army are also involved, are complicit in this. So they become accomplices. The justice system, the authorities become accomplices in this. I would say that more than social justice, what the victims, what we're looking for is to be able to find our loved ones. Because those of us who've suffered forced disappearance, it's as if we've been frozen in time. And we have this, we're grieving. And many people have died just out of grief because they're waiting and waiting. This is a phenomenon, the most horrible crimes. Crimes against humanity is one of the worst crimes against humanity is forced disappearance. You're right. Yes. Yeah, there's something of what you said, what you commented, is that this is one of the challenges is to be a victim and who's looking for justice. And during these times of pandemic, how has that been for you? When you're searching for justice in the midst of all this, being through confinement, it's very complicated and difficult because the prosecutor's offices are not open to the public, and the courthouses are also not open to the public. So, for example, in the case of my brother, and the 16th of May victims, and on the 4th of May we had a hearing in the Human Rights Court, where our cases are being processed, and the hearing didn't take place because the judges are not giving priority to these types of cases, and even more when military personnel are being prosecuted, they keep pushing the hearings back. And for us victims, that's very complicated, because what we most want is that, okay, if we're not going to find them, let at least there be justice, that the responsible people be held accountable. that we want the system to show us that there is justice, but true justice, because that's what we've least found. And in the special jurisdiction for peace, we've been recognized as victims because militaries, the military officers signed up to the special jurisdiction for peace. So we've also been recognized as victims there. So the military personnel that signed up to the special jurisdiction, they need to give reparations to the victims. We've always said that our family members were not. Oh yeah, they're talking about material reparations, and we're saying our family members were not like a dog or a chicken that was killed. Our loved one. We need more holistic reparations. Yes, of course, you're right. Yes. So in that sense, would you, after this terrible action against your brother, you joined these different collectives in search of truth? And I would like to ask you, why do you think the social movement has been so fundamental in this struggle, and especially here in Barranca Bermeja, where that a city that has lived through so many unfortunate things? Historically, Barranca Bermeja, at a national level and international level, has been recognized because it's been very organized socially, and it's raised its flags to defend its struggles and its people. In the issue of organizing, Barranca Bermeja has always been very well organized. This has been helpful in one way or the other. The denouncements that help to stop the abuses of authority, the authorities' abuses, the violations of human rights that are taking place. Human rights violations are the daily bread here in the region and here in the city, because it's not only here in Barranca Bermeja, it's also in the entire region of the Middle Magdalena region. Because of all the wealth that we have here in the region. And so we are a focus of the armed groups. And the state violates our rights and gives us no guarantees. So the only way to demand our rights is through all the organizational processes, is to organize ourselves. And this is how they recognize us and listen to us. And at some level, we are respected that way. Thank you, Rocio. So just one last question. I would like for you to share with us, to the public that is here listening, how can we be allies to you? How can we help you make visible everything that's happening? For us, the international community has always played a fundamental role. For us, the social movement has had certain guarantees to remain in our territories and to protect our lives. It's because of accompaniment, such as Christian peacemaker teams who does this type of accompaniment to communities that are at risk, to communities that are defending their territory. And for example, myself personally, I can say that in the year 2000, when I had threats to my life, they were going to assassinate me, thanks to Peace Brigades International, who accompanied me personally. They were the ones who were able to save my life. And so in part, I owe my life to them, because if they had not been there, I would not be here today, having this conversation with you all. For me, this is something very important. So, in these permanent accompaniment that that organizations such as CPT or PBI and others that are in the country as well. Because in some ways, this one of the only ways that we have to be able to go out and do our work in the communities or in the territory, because we don't have any guarantees from the state. Thank you, Rocio. Thank you for sharing your experience with us and part of your story, so that we can get to know this important voice that you have, and representing the movements that that are pushing to get to know the truth, and that the families will be able to find the peace that they so much long for. So now I would like to give a welcome to Carlos. Carlos Giordano, welcome. Thank you for being with us here today. And I'd first like to start asking you that how did you become a farming leader in the Northeast Antioquia region? Okay, so good afternoon to everyone that's connected from different places in the world and in the country. My name is Carlos Morales. I'm a farming leader of the Caucopana Corporation. My story? I don't know. I don't like to share it so much, but at the age of 12, since the age of 12, I've been a victim constantly. My father has been a human rights defender for more than 35 years. And since we are his family, in 2001, we had to leave running, wrapped in mattresses from Barranca Bermeja as being forcibly displaced. We left to the city of Bucaramanga, where I studied. I was 12 years old at the time. And in the city of Bucaramanga, our house was raided by the authorities. And at the time, my father or mother were not present. They were out in the rural area, because my father is a leader of the Cimitarra River Valley Association, Farmers Association, and he was there doing his leadership work. And when they didn't find my mother and father, the police, together with the military and with the investigative police, they took my sister, who was the oldest. She was only 15 at the time, and they took her prisoner, and they forcefully disappeared her for almost 3 years. And yeah, we only saw her again when she was 18, where she was basically able to escape from where she was, and she located us where we were out in the Cimitarra River Valley. And we lived through multiple forced displacements between Barranca, Bucaramanga, Bucaramanga, a cold city without my parents, because my parents, they were being sought after, and the Morales family has been persecuted, has been prosecuted in the courts through fake processes, and I told my father, I told my father that I'm tired of living in your friends' homes who are being in solidarity with us. I want to be close to you. I want to be close to my mother. And so we left the city and went to live in the Northeast Antioquia region. And when I was 14, I arrived to the rural community of Lejanías. And I knew the work that my dad did in community work, and I was part of a human rights committee at the time. And at the time, yeah, I signed up to the community action committee, and that's when the whole the dynamics of the conflict that I already knew. This is I want to share a story that I can never forget. Basically, from the age of 12, I've been accompanied from CPT. I've had accompaniment with CPT. That's where I got to know Pierre. There were several dynamics that took place. For us to go into the rural areas, we had to be accompanied. Yeah, imagine from the age of 12, you're in your own community, and you have to be accompanied by international organizations because of the situation. So all of this really had an effect on me, and I got to know the different dynamics from the city and the dynamics of the rural areas. And the rural life is much more difficult, facing much more hardship. But in Colombia, in the city, just as in the countryside, we don't have enough human rights defenders, because on top of it, they prosecute us and they kill us, and so there aren't enough of us. But eventually, I became a builder of peace. I told my father, I don't want to be in the city anymore. I don't want to study anymore. I want to help build territory. I don't want to be afraid anymore to be displaced. And I want to work through nonviolence to build a different society. And so in 2004 is when I started working as a community human rights defender. But then I got malaria, and so I was sick a lot. And in the region, because of the paramilitaries, they had a blockade that prevented the medication of entering into the region, including and also basic groceries, which basically forced me to go to Bogota for a year to recover, because I got several cases of malaria. So then in 2005, I went back into the region, and that's when I started working with Caucopana in the creation of Copana, and I haven't stopped since to dream and to resist and build our territory, to be part of a dynamic of solidarity, and to leave our print of solidarity and human rights defense in Chocó, Urabá, and Antioquia. And that's basically what I've been able to build my life throughout the past 15 years. And it's a beautiful experience with the farming communities, to live in solidarity with the other, and to stand up to the state and give them a clear response that we have a dream and a utopia of the society that we want to do will not be silenced through being prosecuted or threatened. Because for example, I was put in jail for 8 months under a false process. My sister was disappeared for 3 years. My father was in jail for 6 months. My mother was also imprisoned for several months. And I've suffered several attempts on my life from paramilitary groups in the Northeast Antioquia region. But still, we're still here. We're still here, dreaming, standing up to the state, standing up in an organized, nonviolent way, where we continue to dream for what we most want, which is peace. That since 10 or 15 years ago, we've been betting on. And we believe in the agreements. We believe in the agreements signed between the FARC and the government in 2016. We were part of building them, and we support them. But today, what we see, the Colombian state came to an agreement. The FARC believed in those agreements, but it's sad to see that 4 years ago, those agreements were signed. But the only thing that we've seen is that the assassination of social leaders, the increase of paramilitary structures in the region, and we continue to denounce that the Colombian state is not fulfilling the agreements, the peace agreements, because not only have they've not fulfilled the agreements to the guerrilla itself, to the FARC itself, but they've failed to fulfill the agreements to the Colombian society, to the farmers in the regions. Yeah, Carlos, what a story from such a young age, where you've been very committed to the cause. You've given yourself to the farming families, and just committed to the regions to be out there working there. Not everyone is so ready to do what you've done, what you've told us. And in what you've told us, you named that from a very young age, when you arrived to the Northeast Antioquia region, and you faced all these armed actors. I want to ask you, how was life in the Northeast region, Antioquia region, with all the armed actors present? It's no secret to anyone that the Northeast Antioquia region has been historically where the FARC, the ELN guerrilla groups have been present. And the FARC is there as an unarmed presence. And it's a region that's been heavily influenced by the armed conflict, but also there are many economic multinational companies that are interested to exploit the great wealth that is there. And to learn in the midst of bombardments, combat, and to know the dynamics of the different groups, like the FARC, the ELN, or the paramilitaries, it makes the Northeast very interesting. Because in the midst of all the confrontations between all these armed groups, but you also add the presence of the official Colombian army, the state army, it makes the region very interesting. And I remember the first humanitarian camp that we did, and we started studying international humanitarian law and the Geneva Conventions. And the Geneva Convention related to refugees. And in the midst of all the two guerrilla groups, the paramilitaries and the military, we had to be refugees within our own territory, but we had to do it in our territory to stay there. And we started looking at how we were going to resist nonviolently, organized, and denounce the situation. And to learn from the historical leaders who had been coming from political processes from far back, Rajito, Doña Fanny, I started to learn and to apply the wisdom that I learned from there in my daily process. And it took a lot of strength and effort on my part to get to know the regional context, the culture of the communities, because in the Northeast region there's people from Chocó, from Urabá, and to learn the different dynamics. There's also people who are religious, and you need to learn to speak to all these different groups, to learn all these different cultures and dynamics. Of course, yeah. A lot of wealth in the different cultures there. And so in that sense, in all those different groups that you name, and so for the public, a lot of people that are not from here, a lot of people would like to know, could you tell us what is happening with the agreements there, with the peace agreements in the Northeast region of Antioquia? That's a heavy, long question. I'm gonna have to drink a little water before I answer that one. It's important to note that, and Rocio mentioned it before, the Magdalena Medio region has been one of the pioneer regions in terms of agrarian struggle, social struggle, student struggles. And one of the beautiful things is that It's one of the regions that has lived for a long time in conflict, with massacres, combats, and all the armed actors. We've always believed that the conflict, we have to look for a negotiated solution, a dialogue solution of the conflict, looking to find respect with the adversary. And I remember when the agreements were signed, we were one of the organizations that was was inviting to the national event of peace, and we were one of the organizations that proposed to the FARC, to the ELN, and to the Colombian state that they would sit down and negotiate, find a negotiated dialogue solution to the conflict. And we all bet on this. We did constituents meeting for peace. We all became working on pedagogy for peace, and we took it on as our own. And I remember in 2016, on the 24th of November, the signing of the peace agreements, I cried out of joy. But then when the referendum, no won the referendum, it ripped out our gut. And so many people said Colombia rejects peace. But so many of us still believed in it and still believe in it. But one of the things is that today the paramilitary structures are stronger than ever. And the Colombian state is completely deaf to the denouncements that the social movements are doing. Every day there is assassination of social leaders that are assassinated. For example, the case of one of the leaders, Asobab, the Bajo Cauca Farmers Association. Since yesterday, this leader it was 9 days that he was lying on the ground because the authorities would not let the community go pick up his body. He was assassinated 9 days ago and left to lie, and the vultures were picking at his body. That rips the soul out, and that creates other contexts. And in the Northeast region, there were military operations where social leaders are being prosecuted, and this is generating terror within the communities. And those leaders are the same leaders that were doing pedagogy for peace, that opened up the doors for the national government. And today, the same institutions are now arresting these leaders, and the peace process is crumbling. The national government has no policy to move the peace agreements forward. But even in the midst of this pandemic, because this has also been very sad and difficult, in the midst of this pandemic and the complete state abandonment, today people are mobilizing themselves, are out there demanding justice, are out demanding that the agreements be respected and be carried out. People still want peace. People are still resisting. People are still organizing nonviolently and saying, here we are, in an organized resistance, in a very beautiful way, in a way that inspires us. And one of the beautiful things that inspires us is solidarity within families, within communities, the love of their territory, love of their culture, and the love of dreaming of a free, open countryside. Thank you. Thank you. And we hope that that's the way it will be. Yeah, we hope that the Colombia that we all long for, we hope that that's the way it will be. Thank you to Rocio, and thank you to Carlos. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing these stories with us that come from your heart. Thank you for working in the defense of life and for being an example for all of us. And so now we'll open the space for questions to the general public that's with us today. And so just remember on the bottom part of the screen, there's a Q&A, button you can choose. But again, if we're not able to answer all the questions, you can send us your emails where we'll be able to respond by email to the questions. So I will ask Rocio, just a second, please. There's a question here from Julie Brown for you. Rocio, you talked about real justice. What would be reparations what would represent real justice for you? Okay. As a victim, I'm going to give it in two different perspectives. As a victim, it would be very important. Reparation from the point of view of punishment for the responsible persons. But that it be an example punishment, that they actually go to prison, not giving them house arrest or even giving them promotions. As an organization, it's very important for us to give an example to the country that the victims have rights to be repaired, both in the judicial way, but also the holistic reparation. Because, yeah, myself as a victim, I've been 22 years in this, and the state doesn't want to recognize me. But for me, the financial reparation, that's whatever. That's on a third. That's a different issue. What I want to know the truth, that my brother be given back to me, even just whatever, something that represents him, that can tell me that yes, this is your brother, and that the responsible persons be punished. And it needs to be made public what happened. Thank you, Rocio. Thank you for your response. Another question now for Carlos. Carlos, in this question, how is your family safe? How do you keep your family safe? Do you have a community protection in the rural area?
Sí, como te decía, lo bonito de estar en comunidad es eso, ¿no? Las comunidades nos autoprotegemos entre todos y todas. Después de los acuerdos de paz he tenido como 2 desplazamientos, ¿sí? Y lo que trato es como rotar a veces a mi familia en algunas veredas. Por ejemplo, ahorita donde estoy ubicado, vivo en una vereda. Y una de las cosas que es importante apuntar es que cada vez que hay alguna agresión o que de cierta forma analizamos un riesgo, tanto para nosotros los líderes como para las mismas comunidades, estamos en constante reunión, en constante análisis comunitario y tomamos unas medidas de protección y autoprotección comunitaria, que son unos protocolos que asumimos cada vez que se genera un riesgo, que es lo que ha permitido estar durante los 15 años en región, unas veces afuera en el casco urbano, otras veces adentro, pero la mayoría de veces es en el campo, ¿no? En el campo todos y todas nos cuidamos, como lo que pasó ayer en la vereda, en el corregimiento Carrizal. Después de las detenciones, eh, todas las juntas de acciones comunales, todas las comunidades, más de 1000 personas, o más de 1000 personas, nos reunimos y se movilizaron hacia el corregimiento Carrizal a protestar pacíficamente al frente de una base militar, que es donde de ahí se dirigen los operativos contra las comunidades, ¿no? Entonces, es una de las capacidades que tienen las comunidades, es ese mecanismo de autoprotección. Nos protegemos unos a otros y otras a otros, y así sucesivamente. Siempre la comunicación y siempre la solidaridad como respuesta a lo que pueda suceder.
Gracias, Carlos, por tu respuesta. Un minuto más, Pierre está tratando de conectarse. I will try to speak this in English.
No, we apologize to everyone. When the internet cut out, the translation connection closed off, so we apologize for that.
Bien. Entonces, vamos a abrir el espacio para dos preguntas más, una para Rocío y otra para Carlos. Antes de cerrar el espacio, pues ya hemos llegado casi al final. Entonces...
So now, yeah, we're coming to an end, so we'll open it up for 2 last questions, one for Carlos and one for Rocio.
Bueno, Rocío, José Antonio nos pregunta, esta puede ser para los dos. Rocío y Carlos, ¿qué les motiva, a pesar de poner en peligro sus vidas y la de sus familias, a persistir en esta búsqueda de justicia y paz para sus territorios?
So a question to both of you. What motivates you, in spite of threats to your life and to your families, to continue to struggle for justice and peace in the region?
¿Puedes empezar, Rocío?
A mí me motiva que tenemos derecho a vivir en un país libre y con garantías, que tenemos derecho a estar en un territorio sin riesgos, porque estamos en un país que es muy rico, poseemos muchas riquezas, tenemos muchas riquezas por las cuales merecemos estar en nuestros territorios y que las comunidades gocemos de todas esas riquezas que tenemos, porque en nuestros territorios muchos vivimos del pan coger, ¿sí? No nos tocaría comprar alimentos de otros países si se nos dieran las garantías para estar en nuestros territorios. Entonces, lo más importante es nuestros derechos. Por eso es que día a día, estando en riesgo y exponiendo tanto a mi familia como a mí misma, sigo en la defensa de los derechos de las personas que por miedo no tienen voz, porque no se atreven a levantarla. Entonces, esa es mi motivación. Y por unas garantías de no repetición en un país que tanto queremos como es Colombia.
Gracias.
So we're fighting basically to live, for the right to live free and with all our rights and guarantees. We want to live in a world where there is no risk to one's life for demanding our rights. We live in a region that has a lot of wealth, and we have the right to enjoy it. We are people who live from harvesting our own food. And so this is a region that is extremely wealthy in all sorts of resources, including the food. And so we have the right to live quietly and provide for ourselves. I want to continue struggling for the people who are too afraid to fight for their rights and to stand up for everyone.
Ahora es el turno de Carlos.
Bueno, pues a mí me inspira la gente. A mí me inspira seguir salvando vidas. A mí me inspira mi familia, mis hijos, mi compañera, mi papá, mi mamá. A mí me inspira que donde pase un miembro de Caucopana o una lideresa caucopana, seguir inspirando tranquilidad y dando vida y defendiendo territorio. A mí me inspira la gente, el amor al prójimo y las ganas de seguir construyendo lo que más anhelamos, que es paz con justicia social.
Gracias.
And so people inspire me. Saving lives inspire me. My family, my children, my wife, my parents, Caucopana, all these inspire me. People, again, inspire me. Love of other inspires me to continue building a society where we can all live in peace.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Entonces, hemos llegado al final de este seminario virtual. Queremos agradecerle a nuestros dos panelistas. Gracias, Rocío, y gracias, Carlos, por su disposición, por su tiempo.
So we've now come to the end of this webinar, and we really want to give a big thanks to Carlos and to Rocio for the time that you've given us.
Y también agradecer a todos ustedes, las personas participantes. Gracias por estar aquí presentes en estos espacios, por querer conocer más sobre Colombia, sobre los procesos que estamos viviendo.
And thank you to all of you, the participants who joined us today, who want to get to know more about Colombia and to the processes that are happening here.
Entonces vamos a estar respondiendo las preguntas que no alcanzamos a responder el día de hoy. No olviden dejar sus correos electrónicos para que podamos hacerlo.
And so we'll be in touch. We'll be responding to all the questions that didn't get answered here today.
Y aprovechamos que antes de que se vayan, pueden ir a la casilla de chat. Allí podrán encontrar todos nuestros links para que puedan seguirnos y puedan seguir en contacto con nosotros a través de nuestras redes sociales.
And so we want to encourage you before you leave to go to the chat and to find all the links to our webpage, to our social media, where you can keep in touch with us and you can continue to know what's happening.
Y aprovechamos para contarles también que como Beca Colombia hemos sacado una serie de videos donde queremos mostrar la situación crítica del país y donde tenemos como protagonista al COVID-19. Entonces les invitamos a que lo vean en nuestro canal de YouTube.
So we want also to put a little plug-in to go to our YouTube channel, where we have a series of videos that we produced, where we are talking about the critical situation of the country, and Mr. COVID-19 is the protagonist of these videos. And so yeah, we welcome you to go and see them.
Bueno, entonces disfruten del resto de su día y hasta una próxima ocasión.
And so we
Gracias.
invite you to enjoy the rest of your day and until we meet again. Gracias, thank you.
Gracias.
Chao, Rocío. Chao, Carlos. Gracias.
Chao.
Chao.